Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Thursday, September 14th, 2017 edition of VR News. Let's kick things off with a virtual reality experience that I think is just woefully, criminally under-recommended. And it's an often overlooked VR experience, despite probably being one of the most awe-inspiring VR experiences you can have on the Rift or on the Vive. What am I talking about? Talking about Google Earth VR. When it launched in late 2016, it was absolutely amazing. You could use satellite views to get right down to familiar or unfamiliar streets. Maybe it was a place you always wanted to visit. Someday you might, or maybe a place you wanted to visit and likely will never get to, maybe Pyongyang, North Korea, just as an example, or Tehran, or who knows where else. The point is that application allowed you to do exactly that. You could fly around the globe and then zoom into areas with childhood memories and all those other things I just rattled off. However, when you got to the point where normally Google Earth would hand off from its satellite imagery onto its street level imagery, the application fell a little short simply because it wasn't there. So if you zoom down to a street into street view, you'd get a representation that felt like an echo, a shadow of a place that you recognize. The details weren't there as they are with street view, almost cartoony looking. Well, in addition to another update that we're going to talk about, they have added Street View, and the results absolutely stunning. Now you can zoom into pretty much any place that has Street View data. Plus, in addition to that, 360-degree geotagged photos, famous landmarks, stadiums, etc., those are now available to you. If you go to an area where there is one, you'll see a small little globe. You can activate that to get taken inside and see that surrounding area in high detail, 360 degrees. So guys, if you haven't taken Google Earth VR out for a spin on your Rift or Vive lately, what are you waiting for? Highly, highly recommend it with this update. Next up, Criterion Games, the Electronic Arts studio that developed the PlayStation VR content for Star Wars BattleFront, the Rogue One VR mission. Well, they have finally confirmed there is no more doubt that BattleFront II will not be getting VR treatment. There were hints at it. There was still hope. For example, earlier this year in April, signals still very mixed. This tweet from Alex Mole seemed to hint at the possibility based on their having released that VR mission for Battlefront. If you read the wording and you were very hopeful, you could read that a couple of different ways. And one way is that VR is going to happen. However, the latest comes from an interview with Metro. Now, there can be no doubt, even though it was pretty much assumed since April, we hadn't heard anything, that no news was bad news. Well, again, confirmed there will be no virtual reality for Star Wars BattleFront II. I don't like the reason why. I think it's a bit of a cop-out. It almost seems to insinuate that they're going to alienate fans as if it was an all-or-nothing proposition, when we know clearly from examples like Elite Dangerous, a game can have virtual reality for those who want to use it and experience it that way, and yet still cater vanilla gameplay to those people who do not have virtual reality. Elite Dangerous is a perfect example for that, not really buying their excuse, Criterion's that is, as a result. Hopefully, these guys do create some amazing VR content in the future. I certainly know they'd be capable of it. And this next story, Dell opening pre-orders for its Windows Mixed Reality VR HMD, the unit that it is calling the Visor. October 17th is the release date. $350 US. If this is one that you were looking at, for me, there's just something about the design aesthetic. I can't quite put my thumb on it, but I'll probably pass on this one in favor of one of the other units. Speaking about a game I just mentioned, when VR was still pre-commercial, and I'm talking about the era of DK1, DK2 for Oculus, there was one game developer, well, one game specifically, and I just talked about it, and that's Elite Dangerous, that catered to virtual reality. And it was the game for me personally that said, holy hell. And those of you who watched my video from a few days ago where I talked about what would make the perfect space game for me, or the perfect game period for me of all time, you know the reason why Elite Dangerous in VR probably appealed to me so much. It was the first game that I got when I received my Vive. I played it on the Rift, played other games. I always come back to Elite Dangerous. And now, guys, we are getting an amazing, a freaking fantastic update in the form of Elite Dangerous 2.4. That update will be coming to us September 26th. It's being titled Elite Dangerous 2.4, The Return. Now, what is this return? Well, anyone who's played Elite Dangerous the last year and a bit knows it's the Thargoids. That's not a spoiler. However, right now, guys, I'm going to get into territory that is clearly spoiler territory. If you're an Elite Dangerous player, you don't want to have 2.4 spoiled for you in any way. Stop watching now. Pick up for the next story. If you're still here, last warning for that, but spoiler coming up. Let's take a look at the trailer. It's been playing in the background. In that, you get a pretty cool part of the video where the non-Thargoid ships, the commanders in other words, fire their new missile weapons. You then have a diagnostic voice that says the Thargoid was taken down to 50%. In other words, another 50 and this thing's going to blow up. However, the reading almost immediately jumps up to 60, then 70, then 80%, indicating what's probably pretty obvious by now, that the Thargoid ships regenerate. Not only do they regenerate fast, and that is with the new weaponry. This should help ensure that these encounters are survivable by only the most able and well-armed commanders. Indeed, I cannot wait, because I'm certainly not one of those, despite having 300 plus hours played. I'm not even close to having a ship capable of battling these guys. I can't wait to hear some accounts of those who do. So to say I'm excited, guys, about 2.4, yeah, freaking understatement. Absolutely stoked, jonesing, cannot wait till 2.4 is here. Again, the date for that, September 26th. Guys, that's it for the news for this Thursday. As always, cheers.